You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. I'm Darshan Osman. The top stories at this hour. Attorney General warns governors against defying Supreme Court's judgment on local government autonomy. Former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello pleads not guilty to $80 billion fraud charges. African Union calls for immediate implementation of Ethiopia-Somalia peace agreement. Details shortly. The news begins with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, issuing a stern warning to state governors defying the Supreme Court's ruling on local government autonomy. Now, speaking in Abuja on Thursday at the 2024 Annual Conference of the National Association of Judiciary Correspondents, Fagbemi threatened to file contempt of court charges if the disregard continues. The Supreme Court, in a landmark judgment on July 11, 2024, upheld the financial autonomy of Nigeria's 774 local government areas and barred governors from controlling funds meant for the councils. It also mandated the Accountant General of the Federation to remit allocations directly to local government accounts, declaring the previous practice unconstitutional. However, more than 5 months after the ruling, the federal government has yet to implement the directive, prompting concerns over compliance with the Apex Court's decision. The Lagos State Special Offences Court in Ikeja has scheduled January 7, 2025 to rule on an objection raised by former Central Bank Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele in the $4.5 billion and $2.8 billion naira fraud case brought against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Emefiele, alongside co-defendant Henry Omoile, is facing 26 charges before Justice Rahman Oshodi. Now, at Thursday's hearing, Emefiele's counsel, Olalekan Ojo, SAN, argued that the court lacks territorial jurisdiction to hear the case, claiming that the alleged offenses occurred outside the court's jurisdiction. Countering the claim, EFCC counsel Rotimi Oyedepo, SAN, maintained that the charges fall under the agency's purview as economic and financial crimes, asserting Lagos as the proper venue for the trial based on available evidence. After listening to submissions from both parties, Justice Oshodi adjourned proceedings to January 7, 2025 to deliver a ruling on the jurisdictional objection. The immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, has pleaded not guilty to allegations of an 80 billion naira fraud leveled against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Bello was arraigned on Friday before Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja on a 19-count charge bordering on alleged money laundering. Now, during the hearing, EFCC counsel Kemi Pinheiro, SAN, informed the court of his decision to withdraw an earlier application seeking to expedite the arraignment date, noting that the application had become redundant. The defense, represented by Joseph Daudu, SAN, did not oppose the withdrawal. Justice Nwite subsequently struck out the application and granted Yahaya Bello 500 million naira bail. Now, the court had previously ordered Bello to be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center until January 29, 2025, when further proceedings in the case are scheduled. President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, has condemned the spate of assault on Nigerians by policemen and other security officers. He described such attack as unwarranted. Osigwe emphasized that such acts of violence against Nigerians are serious violations of human rights and affronts to the rule of law. Afam Osigwe said this while featuring as a guest on News Central's political program Politics HQ on Thursday. The NBA president noted that the actions of security operatives underscores the urgent need for comprehensive police reform to prevent such incidents and restore public confidence in law enforcement agencies.
The NBA is that law enforcement agencies and indeed every member of the position of the society should that all these classes should respect the right to freedom of expression, and that where a person is seen to have violated it, that whoever feels aggrieved by the same should use the civil law of tort and sue for damages. But we have an increasing situation where the Cybercrime Act is being used to stifle voices of dissent and opposition. And I think we should look at it from a constitutional prism and ask ourselves whether these do not violate the right to freedom of expression. And also about police brutality, I think that there should be more oversight of the functions of the law enforcement agencies. There's a lot of extortion and brutality going on. There's a lack of accountability about persons who are put in detention, how long they are detained, and a lot of extortion of money from these persons. And sometimes also the lack of communication concerning their whereabouts. The members of their family do not know. And sometimes people are taken over long distances and clamped into detention without their whereabouts being known. There's a lot to be done about this. We must overhaul our criminal justice system such that no law enforcement agent should be able to do that to any individual without being held accountable. People are being held for long periods of time in detention facilities without being charged to court, without being released on bail, and without anything being done about it. And that's why the NBA has been calling on chief judges to direct magistrates and judges in their court and under their control to carry out the statutory duties imposed on them by the Police Act and the Additional Criminal Justice Act, to visit detention facilities, to inquire into the number of persons being detained there, to order that some of them, those of them that deserve to be released, and that those who should be charged to court be charged to court. And also to review, to direct that no magistrate should order the remand of a person without having a return date. You can't order the indefinite detention of a person and no charge is filed against such a person. And indeed that we should apply, I think, section 31 or 32 of the Police Act, which requires that before police can charge any, after police has concluded the investigation, before it can charge to court, it shall mandatorily obtain the advice of the Attorney General. That provision was put in the law for a reason, to avoid the abuse of prosecutorial power by the police. And we must do a lot, because the suggestion that over 70% of our prison inmates is made up of persons who are awaiting trial is not only worrisome but frightening. It should not happen in any society. And we must do everything to ensure that the remand process is not used to unduly victimize persons, is not used to take people out of circulation or force them into paying a bribe or force them into being silenced. We must ensure that our justice system is such that engenders confidence in the mind of the people and is not abused by any person, whether low or high.
Right now, we'll go back to the 80 billion naira fraud charges leveled against former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, where we have our correspondent, Joshua Imarai, standing by to speak to us on this and give us an update as well. Hello, Joshua. If you can hear me, can you give us an overview of the allegations against Yahaya Bello and also the key highlights of the 19-count charge?
Well, the former governor of Kogi State, Governor Yahaya Bello, appeared before the Honorable Justice Emefiele of the Federal High Court here sitting in Abuja, and an 18-count charge of money laundering was read out to the former governor, who pleaded not guilty, however. But based on incident that have occurred before now, there been some back and forth that Yahaya Bello was unwilling to appear before a court of legal jurisdiction. However, the counsel representing Yahaya Bello in this case, that is the person of the son, this new advocate of Nigeria, Dauda, actually pleaded the court that the court should dismiss such notions that his client was not willing to appear before the court. He, however, clarified that there have been some legal technicalities involving a higher court of jurisdiction and a lower court of jurisdiction on the case, that he prayed the court should grant his client bail in lenient conditions so as to avail him the opportunity to turn up for court proceedings during the trial and as long as the case will last. The counsel representing the prosecution that is the EFCC counsel, he actually prayed the court to grant the bail conditions, just as the defense counsel is saying. And the prosecutor, however, said that before now they've had a robust communication between the EFCC counsel and the counsel to the defendant. That means they've been talking before now. And what the EFCC counsel is saying is that to make this whole case as easy as possible. And now, Honorable Justice Emefiele have retired to his chambers that ensued that allows the both counsels to rub minds together on the case. So that is what happened. And based on the allegations leveled against the former governor, according to what was read out to the court, it was alleged that the former governor purchased a series of properties in Nigeria, Abuja particularly, and in Dubai in foreign currencies. And these are what is making the entire 19-count charge that is leveled against the former governor, who was said to have cronies who helped him facilitate the entire scheme that is being alleged by the EFCC.
Oh, okay, but how are his his legal team defending him? How is his legal team defending him against these particular allegations?
Well, we are yet to get into the trial in full scale because there has been a date that was scheduled for it, and that is February. A date in February has been scheduled for the trial. So from there, we know those stands, the defense, and the prosecution are taken. But however, a bail condition of 500 million naira was given to Yahaya Bello, and based on the orders of Honorable Justice Emefiele of the Federal High Court in Abuja, he says that his shortee, he gave him an option of two shortees who must be resident of Abuja and have properties in Abuja and have such life sum of the bill that was ordered by the court to be paid for Yahaya Bello to be freed. And subsequently, the judge is saying Yahaya Bello should be remanded in Kogi correctional facility, pending when the bail conditions be met, and he will be released. So from next year, February, we'll be entering an avalanche of Yahaya Bello's case in the Federal High Court, sitting before Honorable Justice Emefiele.
Okay. Now, can you also tell us what the next step, in this case is, and what does it mean for the former governor? I mean, legally.
Well, for the former governor, that is the person of Yahaya Bello, it is going to be sure that his movement will be grounded to only Abuja because, however, it was not said that he put a flight list, but however, they are telling him to tender his international passport before the court to ensure that he stays within Abuja and does not move out. So, pending when this case will be heard and ruling will be delivered finally, he is going to confine his movement to only the vicinity of Abuja, and he has to appear before the court in all cases, in all hearings and during the trial phase.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that update, Joshua. Now, in the meantime, Nigeria's 36 state governors have given their overwhelming support for the establishment of state police in the country. This was as they presented their position reports on the matter during Thursday's National Economic Council meeting chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima with the state governors, deputies, ministers, and some presidential aides in attendance. Briefing State House correspondents shortly after the meeting, which lasted for over 4 hours, Governor Obasani of Kaduna State said the establishment of state police will help governors better address the security challenges bedeviling their states. Governor Obasani, however, said the NEC postponed further deliberation on the matter to January 2024. The governor highlighted the pressing need for enhanced security measures, citing ungoverned spaces across the country and a significant shortage of personnel in federal security agencies, including the police and armed forces. He also disclosed that the Secretariat has committed to engaging stakeholders further before the Council's January meeting, where a comprehensive report will be presented.
Thank you, my friends, the media. Today, as one of the discussion we had at the level of our NEC meeting, is the update on the creation of state police. As you are aware, there was a submission by states toward the establishment of state police. Today, about 35 states have already made their own submission for the establishment of state police in Nigeria. And I can say here that from what is available, virtually most of the states are in agreement with the establishment of state police in Nigeria. But today the council have decided to step down the discussion until the next council meeting, because we need to come up with a report from the secretariat, and after the report there will be deliberation in the next NEC meeting that is likely taking place in January. And not only that, there's also a resolution in the last NEC meeting, which today the secretary have also agreed on that. There will be further stakeholders engagement after the final report and deliberation by the members of the NEC. So all we are saying here is that 35 states have made their own submission, and many states.
Well, let's also tell you that Nigeria's National Economic Council has expressed optimism of a rebound of the nation's economy. Now, the council, which was chaired by the Vice President of Nigeria, met in Abuja, considering several memos submitted by its relevant committees aimed at improving revenue generation, tackling current economic hardship, and improving insecurity in the country. Amadine Uyi reports.
The Minister of Finance gave an update on the current state of the nation's accounts, including the excess crude account, the stabilization account, and the nation's natural resources account.
I reported to the National Economic Council that the excess crude account as at December 10th had approximately $424,000, while the stabilization account had 33.3 billion naira. And likewise, the development of natural resources account had 28.3 billion naira.
Some other governors present gave updates on memos submitted during the NEC meeting.
The issue of the tax reforms was not a subject matter of the NEC meeting today. It was not any topic for conversation. It only came tangentially in the discussion about the funding for RAMFAC. And because in the proposal itself for tax reform, I mean, they try also to deal with several of these ancillary needs. I mean, institutions that require special funding.
The chairman of NEC and the ad hoc committee chairman, Governor Kogi State, gave an update report on the committee's activities and noted the implementation of some of the recommendations made by the committee.
Another critical presentation today at today's NEC proceeding was a presentation by the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. And they have the very big idea around establishment and readoption of historic sites to create, to be named as Renewed Hope Creative Villages.
The council expressed optimism of a rebound of the nation's economy. The governor of Anambra State also informed newsmen that the controversial tax reform bills was not a key topic of discussion during the meeting. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll tell you how House of Representatives launches investigation into alleged mismanagement of $232 million World Bank loan. We have the details in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, the Nigerian House of Representatives has initiated an investigation into the alleged mismanagement of a $232 million World Bank loan intended for the Accelerating Nutrition Results in Nigeria (ARIN) program. This development comes after Honorable Chike Okafor sponsored a motion expressing concern over the program's effectiveness in addressing malnutrition in Nigeria. The UNRWA program, launched in 2018, aims to enhance access to nutrition services for vulnerable populations across 12 states. However, despite its well-intentioned goals, recent statistics indicate deteriorating nutritional outcomes, prompting doubts about the impact of the allocated funds. The House has mandated the Committees on Nutrition and Food Security, Finance, AIDS, Loans, and Debt Management to examine the use of the funds and ensure that the program's objectives are not abused. The committees are expected to invite relevant stakeholders, including the Federal Ministry of Health, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and the World Bank to provide insights and documentation.
Have been alleged to be water everywhere, but no water to drink. A beautiful program for solving malnutrition challenges, but it has appeared to produce miraculous and obviously ineffective outcomes, taking cognizance of the reports and current indicators of Nigeria amidst such a huge and humongous loan from the World Bank. Worried that the recently released Nigeria Demographic Health Survey 2023 and 2024 indicated a worsening of nutrition specifics, with indices showing an increase in under 5 stunting and malnutrition, and the current realities raising questions about the $232 million spent for nutritional intervention and Nigeria's poor global ranking.
Despite the fact that TB is curable and preventable, it kills more people than HIV and malaria. Combined globally, and is the leading cause of death in Nigeria. It is associated with HIV/AIDS, undernutrition, non-communicable diseases, as well as stigma, discrimination, and other human rights abuses. The House notes that Nigeria currently ranks first in Africa and sixth in the world, accounting for about 4.6% of global TB burden. According to World Health Organization, about 11 million people get infected with tuberculosis, and 1.8 million die each year from the disease, making it the world's top infectious disease killer. The House is aware that significantly progress has been made in the fight against.
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has called on Nigerian youths to demand accountability from the nation's political elite as part of their efforts against graft. Now, this was as the UNODC presented its recent survey on the prevalence of corruption in Nigeria as part of activities marking the World Anti-Corruption Day, where it urged youths to contribute towards fostering good governance and sustainable development. Amadine Uyi reports.
According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, its recent survey on the prevalence of corruption in the country reveals that about 70% of Nigerians, including youths, have refused to pay bribes on at least one occasion. The UNODC, while presenting the results of the survey recently while marking the World Anti-Corruption Day, says that about 42% of respondents say that they have refused to pay bribe because it was the right thing to do. With the survey showing positive trends that corruption is reducing among Nigeria's youthful generation, anti-graft experts say this is because youths bear the brunt of its negative effects.
Young people are significantly affected by corruption, resulting in severe negative impacts spanning social, economic, and political dimensions, evidenced in unemployment, emigration, and political alienation.
Nigeria's Minister of Youth says that many young citizens are left without hope, pushing them into a life of crime because they doubt there will be consequences.
Economic hardship, lack of opportunity, and weak institutional structures often push our young people towards crime.
Experts present say efforts must be put in place to reduce corruption and improve accountability in the public sector. While many have called on government to strive towards youth inclusion in governance, they also call on youths to demand accountability from the nation's political elites.
We must ask ourselves, how can we further foster integrity, transparency, and accountability in the public sector? How can we empower our youth to be an integral part of the solution? It is time to give your youth a seat at the table.
Corruption can only thrive in the darkness of a place. By shining our light on it through actions, vigilance, collaboration, we can build a nation. We can build an Africa with honesty and integrity. This is our commitment. This is our responsibility and our shared purpose.
The UNODC calls on youths to be watchdogs in the society by calling out cases of corruption, saying that they have a role to play in fostering good governance and sustainable development. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Now to political matters. The wave of defections plaguing the Labour Party continues, with the latest development coming from Abuja, where Alfred Ilia Ajang, representing Jos South and East Federal Constituency, has defected to the All Progressives Congress. The defection was announced through a letter read by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, during Thursday's plenary session. Ajang cited internal crises within the Labour Party as the reason for his defection. However, the announcement sparked a rowdy session, with some lawmakers expressing concerns over the letter's content. Now, Minority Leader Kingsley Chinda argued that the letter did not comply with the House constitutional provisions and therefore should be rejected. The Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission has pledged its readiness to improve on the lapses of the October 9 local government election in the state for a better outcome in subsequent polls. Plangji Chisak, who was speaking in Jos at a post-election engagement with stakeholders, said the essence of the meeting was to get feedbacks that will serve as strategic plan for subsequent elections. Our correspondent in Jos, Chizoba Anyonwe, was at the event and now completes this report.
We assured you of our support and collaboration, and I believe that is why we're here also to do it this morning, because we have worked as partners in this process. And the success of PASEC is also the success of the LG and the success of Plateau State.
It wasn't possible, but within the commission, they have to think of, trying to bring an electronic pattern of voting using local content.
Back to the voter verification software, there should be adequate training for the staff. In some of those places, you discover that some of them are not very familiar with that system, which brought about the issue of insinuation of sabotage here and there.
Every EO should have attached a media person that will monitor every movement of it, just like the security agency. And everyone should have a media present there attached, courtesy PLASEC, to monitor and give adequacy in times of reportage.
And that set the tone for this engagement for the Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission to do a stock taking of the October 9 local government election in the state in order to improve in subsequent ones. The governor of Plateau State commended PLASEC for the success of the grassroots polls, but challenged the leadership for better results in future.
A good job now, but at least this is an opportunity to listen to, get feedback on what has gone right, what has gone wrong, and what can be done better. Because when people give you accolades for doing well, it doesn't mean you should sit back and relax. You have to plan to do better.
For the PLASEC boss, who had just tasted the waters of the local government polls for the first time since becoming chairman of the commission, better outcome is his promise to to the people of Plateau State.
We are not saying that we have done exceptionally well, but this will also help us to improve on what we have done. This will guide us to be able to have a report and a good report that we can make our strategic plan for the next 2-3 years.
Going by all that has been said here, all eyes will now be on the Plateau State election umpire to deliver better on their mandate in subsequent polls. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyowi.
Nigeria has taken a significant step in combating tuberculosis and other infectious diseases with the deployment of 333 TrueNat diagnostic devices nationwide. Now, the initiative, spearheaded by the Ministry of Health and supported by the Global Fund, aims to leverage advanced technology to improve testing access in underserved regions. The TrueNat system, a portable battery-operated molecular testing device, is designed for point-of-care use and can be paired with solar-powered TrueLux charging stations for operations in remote areas. Now, this innovative approach ensures rapid and accurate diagnostic results even in resource-limited settings. A recent study published in Public Health Action showcased the device's impact in reducing turnaround times for tuberculosis diagnosis and also increasing case detection rates. This is particularly crucial for Nigeria, which accounts for 75% of the world's missing TB cases and 70% of missing drug-resistant tuberculosis cases. To discuss this, we're joined by CEO of Mobile Diagnostic, Sriram Natarajan. Hello, Sriram. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Thank you for calling me. Very happy to be here.
All right, now, can you speak to us, tell us about Mobile's Diagnostic and its mission to combat tuberculosis and other infectious diseases in Nigeria? How does the company's technology differ from traditional testing methods, and what advantages does it offer?
Yeah, see, tuberculosis is a killer disease, and it's the #1 killer of infectious disease worldwide. And globally, if you see, every minute, there are 3 people dying of tuberculosis. So that's the kind of situation. And so the issue has been mainly because the case detection or the diagnosis has not been appropriate, because high quality diagnostic tools were very, very highly centralized and were not accessible to most of the people. And that's where Molbio came in, and we have designed and innovated a completely decentralized molecular platform where you can actually do a molecular PCR test for tuberculosis, and including drug resistance, right next to the patient. It can be installed anywhere. It's completely independent of a laboratory. Can be easily trained. Even small health workers can be trained to do the test, and it can be deployed in very, very, very remote corners, and people can have access to a high quality diagnostics. So that's the innovation that we have done, and we are already seeing this being implemented globally. And Nigeria, we're happy to say, has also taken the initiative, and we are so happy to be a part of this Nigerian program, so that we can ensure that Nigeria gets TrueNat for all the people.
Oh, okay. Now, but how has the adoption of, TrueNat technology contributed to scaling up TB testing in Nigeria? If you can actually share specific examples or even success stories that demonstrate the impact of this technology.
Yes, even before this procurement, Nigeria got about 38 TrueNat machines through EOSAID, through a program called the INTP. And these 38 machines are in use for the last 3 years in Nigeria, and they are actually placed in very, very remote places, which are not even easily accessible to reach. And all these people are able to do a TrueNat test, and they're already seeing a significant increase in case detection. And that's what encouraged the government to go ahead and deploy additional TrueNat machines. And this current 333 machines are a part of the scaling up the government is doing. And I believe that as they go along, they will try to see that TrueNat machines are available for everybody, everywhere.
All right. Now, but can you explain how TrueNat technology utilizes molecular diagnostics, to detect TB and other infectious diseases? How does this approach differ from traditional microbiological methods?
So traditionally, TB testing has been done through what's called a smear microscopy. This is a 150-year-old technology. But the problem with this technology is it's only about 40 to 50% reliable. So half the people who come with TB don't get diagnosed in time. And that's why TB keeps spreading. Then the other technology that's the gold standard technology is culture. But culture is a microbiology test, and it takes almost 15 days to 1 month to get a report, by which time the patients are already lost to the system. So the need of the hour is to have something which is going to be as good as the culture and which can actually give a report within an hour or 2 hours so that the same day the patient is diagnosed and put on treatment. And that's what is the molecular test. In the molecular test, we are actually looking for the DNA specific to tuberculosis and amplifying it multiple times to be able to detect. It's a very sensitive tool. And today this has become the gold standard. And so TrueNet uses the same, it's called the PCR, polymerase chain reaction molecular tool. And that's what is the core technology in TrueNet. PCR has been there for a while, but again, it was a centralized model. So that's where we have come in and decentralized it completely. So that's a paradigm change to how molecular testing is now done, even at the primary level.
Well, Sriram, are you saying that, the technology leverages advanced algorithms, and machine learning to enhance test accuracy and speed?
Yes, absolutely. So there is a lot of technology in this now, because first of all, we have miniaturized this entire technology, made it portable, battery operated, as you rightly said earlier, and something which can be done at remote levels. And it also has the capability to transmit data real time to any server. So for example, if there is a national database that can be populated on a real-time basis, and the government can actually, the program can actually monitor on a real-time what's happening to TB testing all over Nigeria, for example. So that's the level of capability that's built into this system.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sriram, for your time and also for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much.
Now, coming up after the break, Niger junta suspends BBC radio amid growing media crackdown. We have the details in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. Now, the African Union has urged Ethiopia and Somalia to swiftly implement an agreement aimed at easing tensions over Ethiopia's access to sea, describing the deal as an important act. Now, the long-standing dispute stems from Ethiopia's January deal with Somaliland, a self-declared independent region of Somalia, to lease a stretch of coastline for a port and military base. In exchange, Somaliland claimed Ethiopia would recognize its independence, a move Addis Ababa has not confirmed. Somalia condemned the deal as a violation of its sovereignty, sparking concerns of renewed conflict in the already volatile Horn of Africa. After hours of Turkish brokered talks, Ankara announced late Wednesday that an historic agreement had been reached between Somalia and Ethiopia. The African Union has now called on both nations to honor the terms of the deal without delay to ensure stability in the region. Niger's military government has announced the suspension of BBC radio broadcasts for 3 months, accusing the British broadcaster of disseminating erroneous information likely to destabilize social peace and undermine troops' morale in its fight against jihadists. The suspension, which takes effect immediately, affects popular BBC programs, including those in the Hausa language broadcast through local radio partners. Now, this move adds to a growing list of Western media outlets banned by the junta since its July 2023 coup. In August 2023, French broadcasters Radio France Internationale, the France, and also France 24 were also barred from operating in the country. In a related development, the junta revealed on Thursday evening that it is filing a formal complaint against RFI, although no specific program or content was cited in the actions against the BBC or RFI. On World Wrap, Chinese Navy and Coast Guard ships have returned to China, marking the end of a large-scale maritime exercise. This is according to Taiwanese authorities, who reported that Beijing conducted its largest maritime drills in years, deploying numerous warships and Coast Guard vessels across a region extending from near Japan's southern islands to the South China Sea. However, Chinese authorities have given no announcement about increased military activity in the East China Sea, Taiwan Strait, South China Sea, or Western Pacific Ocean. Shai Ching-ching, Deputy Director General of Taiwan's Coast Guard, confirmed on Friday that the ships had returned to China and stated that Taipei regarded the exercise as over. Wu Jian, a spokesperson for Beijing's defense ministry, did not confirm whether the exercises had taken place at all, adding that any exercise would be decided by them alone. Thousands of protesters took to the streets of Slovakia's capital, Bratislava, to demonstrate against Culture Minister Martina Simkovikova. Now, the protests were sparked by her dismissal of several heads of major cultural institutions, including theaters and museums, and also the suspension of projects led by LGBTQ+ associations. Simkovikova justified her actions as efforts to promote and preserve Slovak culture. Critics, including cultural professionals and LGBT+ activists, argue that her decisions harm the country's cultural landscape and marginalize minority groups.
Sa zmení táto politická situácia, ktorá je u nás a ktorá smeruje jednoznačne na východ, na žiadne 4 strany, ale jednoznačne na východ. A verím tomu, že ľudia sa spamätajú, pretože ja si myslím, že treba sa pozrieť.
In business, Nigeria's President of the Senate has called on fellow lawmakers to support the new tax reform bill, saying they present an opportunity to modernizing the nation's tax laws. The Senate President made this known during a roundtable discussion on the tax reform bills organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, saying that the reforms are aimed at creating a fairer distribution of the tax burden and ensuring that the system benefits all Nigerians and fosters national growth.
The introduction of these bills has been met with some misunderstanding and even politicization by certain segments of our society. But my friends, let us not view this as a setback, but rather as a testament to the growing democratic maturity of our nation. Our citizens are engaged, they are invested, and they are rightfully demanding.
In the world of sports, American imports Liana Monet-Tillman and Kristen Spoilier starred as holders ASC played for the 61-48 victory against MFM Queens from Nigeria, subjecting the Nigerian champions to their 4th loss of the competition while registering their 2nd victory in 4 matches. Tillman scored 17 points, adding 5 rebounds and 3 assists, as Spoilier, the only other player to hit double digits on points, dropping 13 while adding 4 rebounds and 3 steals in the victory. MFM's charge was led by Wando Mavis Hembum and Abigail Isaac, who dropped 15 and 11 points respectively. Former China national football team coach and ex-Everton midfielder Li Qie has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for bribery. The 47-year-old was convicted of giving and receiving bribes totaling 120 million yuan between 2015 and 2021. The bribes were linked to selecting players for the national team, influencing club results, and facilitating player transfers. His sentence is part of a broader crackdown on corruption in Chinese football, with several high-profile figures punished this year. In a related case, Du Zhouchai, former vice president of the Chinese Football Association, was sentenced to 14 years in prison for taking bribes totaling 43.4 million yen. Still talking sports, Manchester City have announced the Premier League record revenue of £715 million in their latest accounts to 30 June 2024. City's revenues rose by £2.2 million from £712.8 million, which had been the previous best. That came in a year they could not repeat their historic treble triumph of 2023, but did secure an unprecedented fourth consecutive English title and victories in the Club World Cup and European Super Cup. City have now recorded a profit every season since 2014-2015, with the exception of the COVID-impacted 2019-2020 campaign. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our top stories. You heard that Attorney General has warned governors against defying Supreme Court's judgment on local government autonomy. You also heard that former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has pleaded not guilty to 80 billion naira fraud charges. Finally, we told you that African Union has called for immediate implementation of Ethiopia-Somalia peace agreement. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.